now I do want to move over to Brooklyn and talk about this team with the Nets, who obviously have the big three and they're getting hot and they've won 7 straight games, some of them without KD, which is even more impressive. 21-12. It looks like they're starting to really hit their stride. And now it's starting to get to that point where this team can seriously make a finals run. And to me, this Nets team, to me, it's fun to watch. I mean, I've watched a few games over the last week or so, and I mean, you just see all these stars, and like anyone at any time can just pick up and then like control a game, which is something that they're gonna need in the playoffs. But to me, I just feel like they need a big man. They need maybe a few depth pieces, and that's going to come in big in the playoffs when you play the better teams. And I think they're going to go out and get someone at that like that. And we see a guy like DeMarcus Cousins maybe out there. You're probably going to need someone that plays a little more defense, but I think big men, maybe it's going to be one big piece, maybe it'll be a few small pieces. That's just where I feel like this Nets team is. To me, they're just one piece away. Ryan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And the beauty of the NBA is you're going to be able to get that piece, even if you don't have the money. The buyout system in the NBA is, past the deadline. If you're vets, you can't deal them. You're just going to buy them out, and they're going to go to all the contenders. So the Nets are 100% going to be able to add a big man, whether it is a guy like DeMarcus Cousins you mentioned, although we both can, attest that I don't think that's the best basketball fit. Andre Drummond would be an interesting fit. He's probably going to get bought out. But to see where the Nets are doing right now when they're not even at full strength, 5 straight wins on the West Coast, 4 of them are without KD. We've seen Harden take over games versus Phoenix. We've seen him beat the Clippers. We've seen him beat the Lakers. They are on fire right now, and they're not even at full strength, right? They're missing Kevin Durant, who's a top 4 or 5 player in basketball at the very worst. So, as happy we were with the Knicks a second ago, we be very realistic about the Nets. This team is very serious. This team is going to compete for a title. And the way that the year is shaping up right now, I don't see anyone in the East. I know the Sixers are still ahead of them in the standings, but on paper with these rosters, I don't see anyone comparable to the Nets. And it looks like they're on a collision course to the finals.
Yeah, that's no doubt in my opinion. I look at them as the most interesting team in the league, exactly because of that reason. Do they need a big man? Can the stars just carry them through everything? Realistically, I just don't think there's anyone who can take them down best of 7, because you can get one of their best 3 players going for 40 in a night, or you could have all of them go for 30 and you get 90 out of 3 guys. I saw the stat, they're on pace right now. Durant, Harden, and Irving are all on pace to become the first trio of NBA teammates on the same team to average more than 25 points a game. It's absurd. You're going to get 75 points of scoring out of 3 guys on the team. And then, again, you've got stepping up. Bruce Brown had 29 points the other night. And if you're going to get that, plus the stars, I mean, what are you supposed to do as another team? The defense is always a question. They give up a lot of points. That maybe could be resolved a bit if you get another big guy in there. DeAndre Jordan is not exactly what he used to be, of course, but he's had his moments too every once in a while. I'm really just looking forward to seeing hopefully 2 New York teams back in the playoffs, and I see the Nets. You can't say the Knicks competing for a championship, but the Nets are going to be right there at the top of everything, seeing what they could do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the star power on the Nets, not, I mean, like, that's a thing. Like, to me, out of everyone in the East, they got the star power to beat a team like the Lakers, to beat a team like the Clippers. And that's something that if you're a Nets fan, you're extremely intrigued about. And kind of the one thing I wanted to bring up is that the Nets, this vibe around the Nets team, though, is kind of, I feel like it's like this Knicks, it's all like this incitement and new hope. And like the Nets, it's like, if we don't win the championship this year, it's like stressful. Like it really is. Even like watching like their press conferences and stuff, like it seems like stressful.
Yeah, I mean, if you do look at it though, objectively, they are in the most win now position you could be.
Yeah.
They have traded the entire future. They traded all their draft picks for James Harden. This is their window. This 2 to 3 year window where you have these superstars locked up. You do have to win. And I can't imagine the stress they're under because they literally need a championship or it's an abject failure. They are the number 1 team who knows what it's like to get burned with trades and dealing all your picks. They've had the picks that were Jaylen Brown. They've had the Jason Tatum picks just traded away for a few years where they didn't really do anything.
Yeah, there's just no question to me that the Nets are going to do it in my mind. I remember watching the news reports once they talked about Harden getting traded, and I saw Nets as not even a close realistic option. And once that happened, I said, oh my gosh, this is over. It's really, I think this is the most definition of a championship or bust team. If they can keep that core together, I see it being multiple championship or bust. But after this year, I can't imagine them not walking away with the trophy. I guess it'll be a little off topic, but it's the only thing I'll say. I don't see the Lakers being able to beat them, at least for now. They have looked sloppy, especially without AD, but that's the only other team I see rivaling them, just star power-wise. So the Nets have it, man. I have no doubt saying that. I could be quoted all you want, but I think it's a very fair thing to say, most likely thing to say. Nets 2021 NBA champs.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I feel like not a lot of people say that. That star power, I mean, you put KD, who we've seen him in the finals just go off, especially when he has a guy like Steph, and they're going to have the star power too. And they're obviously this big three. They're probably one of the better I think they're like just the three guys. I think the three players of their big three is better than that Miami big three. I mean, I think we could definitely say that. So especially just that offense. I mean, it's insane. But I think that's why the depth worries you. And the Lakers do have that deeper team. I mean, even look at other teams in the West. I mean, like, we'll see how that playoff kind of route goes. Like, the Nets just going to run through the Eastern Conference and then be well rested. And then a team like the Lakers, who are duking it out with all of those teams, that may matter too. And maybe then depth isn't as big as kind of a concern. But I mean, right now, I would take the Lakers. I'm not betting against LeBron. And they're going to have AD too. Hopefully, like, he'll come back healthy. And I mean, it's interesting that you say hands down that the Nets, Nick, that they're going to win. I think they just need one more piece. Andre Drummond, that would be a huge ad for them. I think then you say they are the definite, they're going to win this thing because Drummond's like the missing piece they need. But who knows? Like, I mean, would they buy him out? It seems like they want to trade him. I think that's kind of, when you look at that addition, it does put him over the edge, but is it possible?
I think they will get better. The way the NBA works, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to upgrade at the deadline if you're a super team like they are. The Lakers will probably add a piece too. These 4 or 5 teams that really do have a shot will get better. But yeah, Nick, you're bold, man. To say that you're Sharpie, let's lock them in. They're your champions already is wow. It's fascinating to hear that.
I just love them as a squad, man. I think there's just been, interesting is the word I use, unique. You could say whatever it is. There's no team that's been just structured. Yeah, you could say the Miami Big Three, but between offensive power, it's absurd, man. You have, the stat I said before, the 25 plus 3 guys. You could argue it's the 3. I would say Stephen Curry, of course, number 1 for the point guard spot, but 3 of the best offensive players at their positions right now, and arguably of all time. So I don't know. I really think when teams come together like this now, it's just something spectacular that you have to kind of root for. At least to see them win once. You don't want to see it over and over like what happened with Golden State. But to see them win a title, I think would be just awesome for the game. For Harden, too, of course, to get one, kind of cement his legacy. I've always liked Harden as a player. Him and KD being back together now, they said they were boys back then. Now they're grown men, they're adults, they know what they're doing. So it'll be, I think, a much different rodeo this time for them.